Yeah. 501, H-State, stand up. It's your man, Big Bubba. Come on, one time. To all my H-State riders that done paid that price. Real hogging at night. Is you about that life? It's a hog life, baby. What you know about that? We down like spinal cord strapped in the Fleetwood Lac. West side of the 216 to be exact. Number one podcast in the H-State fact. It's a hog life, baby. Is you about that life? It's a hog life, baby. Is you about that life?
He's camera shy. That's why he's a photographer. It's better to be on the other end of it.
He's just gonna be on for 5 seconds, Will.
4, 3, 2,
1. You ready? It is the most genius. I'm not ready. I ain't recording nothing. Did Blue Cupcake did that last week? Blue did that last week, man. Y'all right. Here we go. It is the most dangerous podcast in the A-State, the coldest podcast in the A-State. You are chilling with your best friends from the West End, and it is the Hawglife, baby. I am the head hog himself, the shocking one, Big Rob the Shocker, and y'all know who I'm riding with. That's the same dude that gave Winnie the Pooh his last red shirt.
That's right.
But would not give him his shorts.
That's right.
I don't understand him, but he goes by the OG, the infamous OG. He is
Willio, the genius. What it do, world? You already know what it is. Like my man said, you are tuned in to the #1 podcast in the A-State, the most dangerous podcast in your area. So guard your grizzle.
Guard your grill, baby.
Yes, sir.
Guard your grill. Man, we got a good show today. It is a very educative show today. I've been waiting on this show since we started last October, baby. I've been waiting on it, Will.
Yeah.
I've been waiting on it, Willie.
This is a show about loss, recovery, and renewal.
I love it. And
restoration of a woman's spirit.
Wow.
That's what this
I
show
like
is
that.
about.
I like that. And nobody can emphasize this better than this lovely being that we got standing next to us right now. My best friend, my dear friend, I love the ground she walks on, Miss Kristi and Kirk. How you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
We go back, don't we?
We go back.
Man. We go back like pampers and pacifiers. We go back. We do, man. Before we get on Miss Kristi Kirk, man, we got to take care of the business here today. Shout out and happy birthday to our dear friend, Miss LaShayna Bynum Shelton, down in Conway. Happy birthday, sweetheart. One of the most sweetest kindred souls we know. And Willio, she's a Hawglife fan. And she's coming to the show.
Is that right?
She's coming to the show with Miss Christina and them at the Lions Den.
Hey, man, I can't
she's
wait
coming.
She get here, man.
Huh?
She get here.
We ready for her. We are so ready for her, man. We're ready for her to get here and everything, man.
Is she ready?
She keeps saying she is.
Yeah.
She's about yay high, yay big, and she got energy out this world. Like she talk more crap than Muhammad Ali.
Oh man.
She do. And they try to give it to me when I went down there for the Zumba.
Yeah.
I ate them up. Big man dance circles all around the Urkels.
I'm gonna go down and show them how to get my Zumba.
Next time I'm going down there, I'm not wearing sneakers.
No.
I'm going to Billy Bouchou's closet and get a pair of them Lacey Adams.
Yeah.
And that OC Penny suit that he got that they stole from JC Penny.
Yeah.
That's where we coming. So, LaShayna, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday.
God
Happy
bless.
birthday.
And we pray to God enrich your life in many, many ways like you do everybody every day. She always has something sweet to say on Facebook, man, and she's like one of the most sweetest young ladies I've ever met. So, happy birthday. When Big Rob and Willio see you, we may bring you some cake, okay?
That's right.
They bring you some cake. Yeah. And we have some sad news today too. Goes out to the McNeil family. Stephanie McNeil, Donnell McNeil. We had both of them on the show. Wonderful people. They land arrest Miss Miriam today.
Right.
And one another matriarch from Brinkley, our hometown, where this podcast is originated from. Willio, give me some insight on Miss Miriam, man. Give us some.
Wonderful woman, man.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful woman. Really innovative and ahead of her time as far as business women in Brinkley, Arkansas.
Right.
Really took it by the reins and ran it well. The home business I'm talking about.
Right.
It was instrumental a lot, even with dealing with FHA back in the day, and minorities getting houses.
Oh yeah.
So that's just kind of had a hand in the reason why a lot of people got those houses on the West End.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, I was included. So Definitely will be missed, man. I always say that when you live a life as long as she lived, it ain't a whole lot to be sad about.
That's true. That's true.
It ain't a whole lot
That's
to
true.
be sad about, man. But we're gonna celebrate her life along
right.
with her family, man. We spoke with Stephanie earlier this morning, and she was in good spirits.
Good. Darnell was in good spirits. They all talking well. I'm just a firm believer that saints don't die. I just don't believe saints die. I believe saints go home to be with the Lord. They don't die.
Yeah,
They
we
go
just
home.
transition from
They
this life to
transition.
another, man.
They transition, man. So we love you guys. We love everybody. Love you all. We are definitely praying for y'all in this bereaved period. And if the Hawglife can do anything, I mean anything at all, please let us know. And I think Will West kicked the thing in the power that went out. But I think we got it right here, so we're good to go. We're good to go. We're good to go. Did you? I think you did, Will. When you came up and it just you're fine. They can hear us. They can hear us.
Yeah, they can hear you.
Lights on?
Mm-hmm. Lights on, blue light.
Oh well. They got to bring us home. We good to go. We keep it moving. We don't stop. We keep moving. We don't stop. We don't stop.
You know why we can't stop?
Why we can't stop?
We hogs, baby.
Yeah, we hogs, baby.
I got a question to ask
I've
you,
been
Big
waiting on your
Rob.
question to ask
You
me.
been waiting on the question,
I've been waiting on
dog?
your question, baby.
Are you about that
Oh,
life?
I'm about that life.
Are you about
Come
that
on, Willie.
life?
I'm about that
Well,
life.
it's the hog life,
Yeah,
baby.
it's the hog life, baby.
Well, it's the hog life, baby.
Yeah, it's the hog life, baby.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I like that question he asked me. The last time you guys tuned in, it was two Jerry Curl and Perm Grease dudes on these mics talking. Did he say I was shocking M&M's?
Yeah, they
Nobody
said.
said I was shocking them. Only M&M's I like is the peanut butter M&M's. I don't like the plain or the peanut butter or the peanut. I like peanut butter M&M's. He talking about I like M&M's.
Tell me to come on, Willie on the dummy. Well, I got a message for you, Uncle Blue.
That's real, man.
I know somebody that I am smarter than Blue. You know who that is? Your mama.
And just like that, man. Just like that, man. It's been summer this week, man. It's been summertime this week, Willio.
Yeah, it's summertime right now, man.
Summer this week, man. It was hot.
I'm saying these shades trying to look cool, but I'm really hot right now.
Hey, man, I went to the zoo at work. What day was that? Was it Thursday?
Did you see me there?
No, I didn't see you.
Oh,
And you know what? As a matter of fact, I saw nobody there. The Little Rock Zoo don't have anything no more.
No, not
like
even
the animals took the PTO day.
Yeah.
They wasn't there. No bears,
All the caves.
no
empty.
kangaroos. It went to the zebra cave. It said come back later. Yeah, come back later, man. Like where the animals go,
The
man?
same ashy elephant.
The same one. And the reason she's still there, she can't go nowhere. She went inside, let them sprayed off. Like seriously, there was no animals at the Little Rock Zoo. None. I looked for a kangaroo, there was like none here. They back in Australia, I get none here. It's no animals at the zoo. None. Last time I was at the zoo was actually 1987.
Yeah.
And they had a little carnival in the middle of the zoo back then, a little carousel, and they had the train to take you around.
Yeah.
The train's still going, the carousel was broke. It wouldn't work no more. It's just still there. Like, Little Rock Zoo, get it together, man. Get some animals, man. I thought a gorilla flipped me off. Like, 'cause I was like, dude, why you sitting in the shade for? And he was like, really? You gonna go there with me? Really? But it was fun seeing the babies enjoy themselves, man. The babies had fun. And I was laughing at them, man, but it was nothing at the zoo, man. It was nothing.
Except a gorilla.
That's it, the gorilla. It was a chimpanzee just laid out like this. He was just like, he just laid out. He didn't move. There was some penguins there. No polar bears, no grizzly bears, no brown bears. I guess the flood took them. That's what happened. The flood took them. That's what we're gonna rock with, okay? The flood took them, man. That's what it is, man. But shouts out to everybody out there, and especially shout out to those people that's working in this heat. You guys drink plenty of water, plenty of fluids. Please drink plenty of fluids and everything out there. And y'all see some out there working, man. Y'all got a bottle of water, give it to them. Hand them out, take care of it, man. They doing civic work for us, working on the highways and everything. Excuse me. And that's hard job, hard work. So we want to take care of our good people and make sure they're doing good. I'm gonna sip some water right now for them because I need that. There you go. Pass up some water for him. So, but other than that, let's talk about this individual in between you and I.
Yeah.
In between you and I. But before we do that, we gotta do question of the day. We gotta do it this week.
Question of the day.
Question of the day. World West Studio, I need you to type this in. I want to end the all-time debate. Everybody online, write this down. I want to end the all-time debate. Who has, restaurant establishment, who has the best French fries? The best fries in the business. Go, William.
We got the best fries in the business.
The best French fries.
Man. I don't know. Because they all kind of suck now to me.
Not Chick-fil-A.
Well, I don't really do chicken.
Wash your mouth out. Wash your mouth out. You don't do Chick-fil-A?
I just don't eat out a lot.
Well, I don't either, but when I gotta have a French fry, I mean, that's why I want to go.
I've tasted them fries before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, I like Dave's Burgers fries.
David's Burgers got good fries, fries. Miss Kristi, what you got?
Five Guys.
Five Guys.
Get that Cajun spice.
Yeah, Five Guys. they got good fries. Will West Studios, what you got over there, baby? Best French fries.
Best ones?
McDonald's.
Oh, God.
He was not from McDonald's.
I would definitely have to say Rally's.
Rally's got good French fries. Rally's got good French fries.
It's like it speaks to the name. It's like it's actually fried, you know, like and it has a crunch to it.
Yeah.
Rally's got good
I'll
fries.
tell you what the worst one is.
Who that?
Wendy's.
Ooh.
It's plain. It's just plain.
Wendy's is kind of good though.
No.
They are.
It tastes like plain matter.
I think the worst is Burger
Like,
King.
it's like nutritional supplement 314. It's just matter.
J-Rock the Juggernaut, the best fries.
I don't eat out much, but if you make them homemade, it's better.
Yeah, home in peanut oil. In peanut oil.
In peanut oil.
In peanut oil. In peanut oil.
Or grapeseed oil.
Yep. Pam, got the best fries.
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A got the best fries.
I love Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A got the best fries.
Stick it with your
They
husband.
gotta stick together.
Best fries. Y'all shout us out. Who has the best French fries? Shout us out. You know, we come from Berkeley. Sandra Strong. Tell us, Sandra, who got the best French fries, baby. And hug Boo Radley for us.
Shout out Boo Radley.
Shout out Boo Radley and everything.
Newest member of the Hog family.
Newest member of the Hog family, Mr. Boo Radley. We call him Boo Jangles, baby. Mr. Boo Radley. Willio.
Yes, sir.
I love hearing your voice. I do.
Right?
I love hearing it, man. I love hearing it.
Okay.
And I'm secure in my manhood in saying that.
Yeah,
I love
they accept that statement too.
I'm secure in my manhood in saying that.
Okay.
I am. But this lovely young person in between us, I know you itching to ask her a question.
Man, look here. I'm itching like diaper rash right now.
Oh man, that's bad itch. That's bad itch. Tina Captivated Red, Miss Christina. What the best French fries, Christina?
You better not say McDonald's.
I know she better not say McDonald's. Don't throw something
I don't care if they are fresh out the grease.
I
You
know
better not
that.
say
She better not
McDonald's.
say McDonald's. She better not say McDonald's, man. Of all people, man.
Nobody want deep fried cardboard.
So I'm gonna sit back and let you ask this person that question that you've been asking, that you dying to ask.
Oh yeah, I'm dying to ask her the question, and she looked like she ready to answer.
I like it.
Kristi,
Yes.
are you about that life?
I'm about that
Uh-oh.
life.
Are you about that life?
I'm about that life.
It's the Hog Life, baby.
High life, baby.
It's the Hog Life, baby.
High life, baby.
Big Rob is time to open the hog pen, baby.
Let's start the show. We is officially in the Kristi Kirk era today.
Yes, sir. It's all
We are
about you
here.
today.
How you doing, sweetheart?
I'm doing pretty good.
You look well. You look like everything's going well for you. I have been eager to hear this story, and you're here.
Yes,
You are here.
I'm really excited to be here.
So, what's been going on with Miss Kristi Kirk? Let's start there. What's been going on with you?
Well, the best part of what's going on with me is my girls just got back.
They back? They
Yes.
back in town.
Yes.
They back in town. Give me a shout out.
Hey, Kylie, Michaela.
She called to wake y'all up this morning.
I did.
She had the mom voice on the phone. I know y'all are jet lagged, but I need you to get up.
No.
Wow, I didn't
That's
sound
how she
like
did.
that right there.
She did like that. So, but shout out to the two beautiful young ladies and everything. So, you've been busy too. You've been really moving around for a lot. We're finna get into the story that everybody needs to hear. Everybody, a lot of people know it. A lot of people have heard it. But coming from the author's mouth herself, I feel is what they need. You ready to go on this journey with me?
I am.
Because I know we're celebrating a week. This week we're celebrating all week something very important. We're gonna talk about that a little later on too, and jump into the entire episode. I always let Willio kick the show off because you know we've been studying you. We've been talking about you all week long. He's ready. He's always ready. He's the only one of us that don't need a script. I need a script, but he's the only one that don't need a script. And
Thank you. Makes me look real good over here.
I'm trying to say, he's the only one that don't. I need one. Like you'll see by the time I'm through, this thing's gonna be just marked up. But Willio,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna let you start out off, baby. You go ahead.
Oh man, where do we begin with this? This is first. Let me start off with this statement. For everybody out there that's expecting a lot of jokes today, a lot of the shenanigans that normally go on with the Hawglife, this is not the episode today.
Not today. Not today.
This is the episode that you really should pay close attention to. I'm gonna start off with the first question, and from there, this thing is finna get deeper, Rob.
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go.
I woke up this morning after my morning prayers, and I asked for strength for all of us on this one today. Because this, as I went through the week, this thing was not easy. It got heavy on me. As I started to reflect on the memories that I had, it's just on the outside hearing about all this. Lady, I'm gonna tip my hat to you right now. You are a phenomenal woman.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Without a question.
God has given
Without
you
a
a
question.
strength beyond all measure. If he didn't give it to you, you wouldn't be standing here right
That's
now.
right. 100%.
So normally I will start off with a question, but I want you to start off wherever you want to start, because this is your story.
Well, I definitely appreciate the opportunity. And, you know, going into this, my heart is for everybody out there who is in pain. It could be from grief, it could be from something else that's happened, some kind of trauma in your life. And as I share my story, I always want you to know that my heart is with you, for those of you who are struggling and for those of you who are in pain, because through this time, can't even tell you how many people I have met that are in so much pain.
Wow.
And need hope and need to know that they can get to a place of peace, even if they can't get all their questions answered.
Wow.
So you're married to a wonderful man.
Yes.
By the name of Philander.
Yes.
Philander Kirk.
Yes.
18 years.
Yes. We were married for 18 years.
18 wonderful years, and then one day.
And then one day, it was August 10th of 2011, and I got a call, and there was an accident, and they were airlifting him to Memphis. And when I heard about it, they didn't give me a lot of details. They just said, you need to go there. And so we had 3 kids by this time, and they were, at that point, our son was 16, and our first daughter was 14, and our baby girl was 11. And so I was with them. We were actually moving at the time. And so we loaded up and went over to Memphis to the trauma unit. That's where he was. And what had happened was he had an accident at work. It was just a freak thing. He was outside where there was gravel. They used railroad ties for landscaping, if you're familiar with those, kind of along the way. And the way he fell, he hit his neck, and he was instantly paralyzed from the chest down at that moment.
Wow. I'll piggyback off this. For a lot of them that don't know, you and I go way back during that time. I met you and met Philander a year prior. My fondest memory of Philander was the first day I met him. Somebody's birthday was down at the place we was at. And they had this huge sheet cake, Willio. Yeah. It was a huge sheet cake. We don't know who birthday it was. But I sat down beside him and I said, hello, sir, how are you? My name is Robert Arden Jr. just sounds just like a cornball, right? He said, "How you doing?" He's a big guy, very big, very low talking. "How you doing?" I'm from Dr. Kirk. It's nice to meet you. I shook his hand and he said, "Where you from?" And we started talking as if we was family.
Right.
This conversation lasted approximately 10 minutes before we both were diving in somebody's birthday cake. To this day, I don't know who birthday it was. I'm so sorry. I got the biggest corner piece. And I'm a diabetic.
Right.
And I didn't care that day because I had met this wonderful man.
Yeah.
I had met him, we was talking and everything. Was actually it was summertime, and we was talking about your son's upcoming AAU basketball. And he was like, "We're gonna be doing a lot of traveling this year." He's playing, and I mean, phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
Phenomenal athlete, which in ties, you knew him. You knew PK, didn't realize what we was talking about during the old AAU days.
Really?
And he would come up and watch him play. He actually seen him play a few times. And when we started talking about the episode, he was like, "Oh, I remember that kid now."
Yeah.
So, and that was my fondest memory of Philander. Very strong, very calm, like the storm without the wind. That's to me the way he was. I met him 3 times, and ironically met him the week prior to his death. We sat and talked in. There wasn't no cake that week. Went over there to get some things and left, quick meeting. Shook, linked up, boom, that was it, man. So he was a wonderful person, and I got a chance to meet Chan-Laws
You did.
during that time. Yeah.
Miss Betty.
Betty, Alfonso. Alonzo, met him.
Philander's brother.
Right. And that's the one I linked up with after the death.
Okay.
And we talked sporadically afterwards and everything. So how's the in-laws and the family, how's everybody now?
Well, with grief, now it'll be 8 years in August. And so Miss Betty is my husband's mom.
Right.
And then he grew up with 10 brothers and sisters. So, and single mom, worked every way she could and wouldn't take a dime of state assistance.
Wow.
She had her kids and was gonna take care of them. Hardest working woman I know.
Wow.
And they're doing okay. They miss them
Good.
and are doing what they can in their lives to do great things. It's a great family, very loving, lots of fun. You would love them. We have lots of fun together.
I know. It was fun over that day at the funeral. They were fun over that day. I'm gonna ask this one question and pass it back to Willie O. Let him tap dance with you. What was the challenges you had going after this? We lost Philander. We buried him. Monday morning comes. Now you're a single mother and a widow. What challenges did you go through with that?
Well, I first went through, shock because, when my husband went into that trauma unit and he was paralyzed, I was spending time with the physicians and with my husband. He was very coherent during that time. He understood exactly what was going on, but he was in terrible pain. But they were working to get him ready for a surgery. And then once he had the surgery, then they wanted to transfer him to a rehab unit. So we were having to try to figure out where in the country was the best place for him.
Wow.
So during those 4 days, everything went very quick, and we were so focused on that. And then when he went down to surgery, he didn't survive. He died in pre-op. And so I think the best way to describe it first is just shock. Everything happened first. All of a sudden my husband can't move, and was in terrible pain and was trying to figure out, why is this happening? He would say to me, "Kristi, what's God trying to tell me? Why did this happen?" Because he always was that strong man, physically and emotionally. And all of a sudden, he can't even lift his hand and scratch his ear. It just was, it was awful to see him in that kind of pain because my husband was very strong. And so I knew when he was crying out in pain, it must have been just unbearable.
Wow.
And so once he died in pre-op, the worst part after that, of course, besides losing him, was going to have to tell my children. And so my kids were on the way to the hospital. I had timed it with my parents. They had come from North Dakota, and I had timed it so that they could be there when their dad got out of surgery. And now suddenly, I had to tell them their dad was gone. And that was, at that point, the worst thing I had ever had to do.
How was PK?
So the kids at that time were 16, 14, and 11.
16, 14.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so to hear that their dad is gone, just was awful.
Wow. Wow.
You know, and so you asked what was the time like after that. I think, you know, first it's just a time of shock, and you go through the motions of getting ready for the visitation, the funeral, and people are coming in and out, and we were surrounded by family. But once that's done, you mentioned Monday morning, once that's done, the kids and I are in the house, everybody's gone, and there's that empty chair. There's that empty spot. You know, there's that truck that doesn't have this driver anymore. And grief is a process that takes a long time. And I think for the kids and I, my goal with them was I wanted them to be able to be real. I wanted them, if they were sad, to be able to cry. I don't view crying as weakness. Rob's probably heard me say it before, but I've actually read studies, and there's actually stress hormones in our tears. And so when we cry, those stress hormones are released. So everybody's into detox nowadays, so I call it emotional detox. That's what crying is. A lot of times the people in our culture see it as weakness, but it's not.
Right.
I think people who can be real and talk through their pain are actually the strong ones.
Wow.
And so with my kids, I wanted them to be able to do that, and they would when they needed to. There's times of anger, you know, you don't understand, and how can a little 11-year-old girl understand her daddy's gone?
Wow.
You know, or my oldest daughter. So there's anger because you don't understand, and sometimes anger is easier to go to because we feel more in control. We're not, but I think sometimes people go to anger because they feel able to express that a little bit easier, because it's hard to be honest and weak and vulnerable when we're in a lot of pain. And then I wanted them to still find times of joy from day one. That was important to me, because when people lose somebody, they go through a lot of feelings, and sometimes people feel guilty for having joy or doing things, you know, like somehow they're betraying that person that was lost. I don't believe that. And it was very important for me that my kids did not live that way, that they knew that their dad would want them to have joy. He would want them to have life. And I tried to instill in them, and still do to this day with my girls, that they are part of their dad's legacy. So every great thing they do in their life, they honor him.
There you go. Willie,
Yes, sir.
talk to me there.
And then you go through the hurt, you go through the shock, you go through the emptiness of realizing that person is missing. And you do all you can to gather yourself and get back on what we consider the right track. And then almost 2 years later, tragedy strikes again.
Yes, and we definitely weren't prepared for that either. So what happened was my son was going to pick up my two daughters. I was at work. We were actually going through an audit at the moment.
Right.
So I was there, and my son didn't get to where he was supposed to be. And so I started calling, trying to find him, and I started having a really bad feeling, like I don't even know how to describe. He wouldn't answer. I knew he was going through a bad spot, so I knew it was possible. It was just not a good signal place. And so, but eventually I started calling the police departments and trying to find out. And at first nobody would tell me anything, and then they started saying, well, yes, there was an accident, but you'll have to contact the state police. And so I contacted the state police, but they were not able to give me information other than there was an accident. Now at this point, people started contacting me from the community, sending me messages. Are you okay? Is everything okay? Which was making it worse, because I knew somebody knew something that I didn't. But at that point, I still thought my son was alive, and I thought he was at a hospital somewhere or something, and nobody would tell me where. Because I was almost frozen to my desk, and I just wanted to know where he was so that I could get there. And what I didn't understand is I couldn't get to him because he was already gone. He died instantly. He was going around a corner, a curve, and there was some heavy rain, and he hydroplaned. And when he hydroplaned, he overcorrected. And so he was going sideways down the highway. And a UPS truck came around the corner and hit him. The UPS truck tried to get over to the side. You know, they were trying to avoid him, but they just couldn't. And he died on impact. And so there he was in the ditch, and then the way his car was all crushed in around him, they couldn't find his wallet, and they couldn't figure out who he was. So then there was part of the delay that I was experiencing as they were trying to figure out who he was. And so they found the car thing. They were able to get to that identified me. on the car. And so then they called one of the state police that we knew at that time and asked if he would go and identify the body, because they did not want to tell me who it was or what had happened until they for sure knew. So during that process, it became a time of them trying to get me to go home. They wanted me to leave the office. Kristi, go home, go home. And what I didn't understand at that time is that even once the state police knew that it was my son, they couldn't tell me until we were in person. And so then 2 people came in to talk to me, and one was my friend Daryl, and Daryl's pretty connected with different people, and I just felt like he probably knew something, and he was trying to get me to go home also. And I just, all of a sudden, I don't remember how it hit me, but somehow it did, that he was gone. And I remember Daryl kneeling down by me, and I remember asking him, is he dead? Is my son dead? And he was 18 at the time. Wow. And he said yes.
Senior year in high school.
He was going into a senior year in high school, had been going to football prospect camps that summer.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, gone.
I remember that day like it was yesterday. I got the call. I was at work, and the call rang. It was a text at first.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm working, I don't look at my phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the call came through, and it said, "Rob, don't say anything. PK's dead."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, what?"
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, in my mind, I'm replaying this whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, don't go to the office, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
You got an audit going on.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the office. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Go home.
Mm-hmm.
I called 5 people that day.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get through.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get through. The one person I did get
Mm-hmm.
through to, he was with me.
Mm-hmm.
We both got the call.
Yeah.
We talked about who that was.
Yeah.
Got this moment now. We had Philander.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have PK now.
Mm-hmm.
Daryl's on his knee, and Daryl's
Mm-hmm.
telling you,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah.
All Daryl did was drop his head and
Drop
say
his head.
yes.
Yeah.
He could.
So he
just-
confirmed it for you.
He confirmed it. Mm-hmm.
After Daryl confirmed it, you got to pull yourself together because we got 2 little girls now, right?
Got to get to my girls. That's all I could think about. Mhm.
When you got to them,
Mhm.
what was the first thing you said?
Well, the awful part is that they already knew, and I was trying to get to them before they knew.
Right.
But unfortunately, with social media, people want to post so quickly. They want to be the first to get their stuff out there. That people had already posted pictures of my son talking about how much they were going to miss him.
Wow. June.
So it makes me emotional because it's so awful that that's how my daughters found out.
Wow.
Because I wanted to be with them.
And this happened June the
26.
26th.
Mm-hmm.
And we have you on the show June 29th.
Yes.
On the anniversary week
Mm-hmm.
of PK.
Yeah.
What are some things you've done this week to honor him?
Well, it's very important for me as his mom. Like I said, I see my daughters as continuing on the legacy of my husband and I. And so, but my son, he didn't have anything. He didn't have any kids. He didn't have a wife. And so I see one of my roles is carrying on his legacy. And so one of the things I try to do before the anniversary of his death, is I try to post different videos and different things of him to try to celebrate the life that he did have. Of course, as his mom, I wish it was so much longer than 18 years, but I want to celebrate it because even though it grieves me so deeply, I am so thankful for each moment I had with him. And so I try to use that week as just sharing the different things that I have of him so that people can remember him and think about him. And, you know, he was a good example to people, and so I try to use that. The actual day that he died, the first year, the first anniversary, the girls and I were just at home, and that was a really miserable day. And so what I decided after that is that each year on the anniversary, the girls and I would go someplace beautiful. And so we've been canoeing, we went to Pikes Peak, we have just done different hikes, different things to be out, because we all are nature lovers. We love God's creation, and so we try to spend that day somewhere beautiful. So last year, on the 5th anniversary, Kylie was gone on a mission trip to Africa, so it was just Michaela and I, but we still did our thing and remembered PK and tried to remember him in a beautiful place. This year was another challenge for me because both girls were gone to Asia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I had to figure out how am I going to do this day by myself. And I was a little worried, honestly, about myself. Thought, am I going to be okay? But I was. And it was neat because I believe God's with us all the time.
That's right.
Even if we're not happy with the circumstances, I believe He's there and He loves us and He's helping us.
That's right.
Even if we don't understand what has happened. And I believe He was with me during this time. I went over to a place, if you're familiar with Table Rock Lake over by Branson. It's a beautiful place, and on my way over there, I was crying some as I was driving and just having a hard time. It was the night before. And I kept thinking about this one praise song I knew that talked about, when my heart's overwhelmed, lead me to the rock. And I kept having that song in my head, so I just started playing it over and over and singing it while I was driving. Well, the funny thing is that night I wanted to watch a sunset. I love sunrises and sunsets and the beauty of nature. And so I was up on this place watching the sunset. It was called Top of the Rock. And I thought, well, that's cool because that was just the song I was listening to.
Right.
The next day, I went to a beautiful place called Dogwood Canyon and I walked that, hiked that, which it was 7.8 miles total, so I was proud of myself.
Look at you. You hit that. There you go.
But at one point, I had my Bible and I stopped and I was looking over some scriptures because even though I was hiking, I was still emotional.
Gotcha.
And as I was remembering my boy, because I miss him so much.
I know.
And the scriptures I was looking at were from Psalm 40, and it talks about how I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined and heard my cry. He brought me out of the pit. I've kind of been in a pit sometimes, because there's been a lot of pain.
Yes.
But He set my feet on a rock. And I thought, well, there's that rock again. I guess that's this year's theme.
Right. Solid rock I stand. There you go. I'm going to let Willie O talk about Kylie and Michaela. But before that, if you don't mind, we're going to shoot over to Will West Studios. What they say, Will? What they say, Will?
Well, some people love McDonald's fries.
Y'all are fired. You suck.
Most of them are saying, hello, how you doing? They love hearing your story. Thank you for telling it. That's pretty much it. Another person said Wendy's just now.
It's not that bad. Wendy's, it's not that bad. Burger King has the worst fries ever.
A big part.
Burger King has the worst fries. It tastes like fisheries.
I'm gonna stay out of this fight.
Yeah, it tastes like fisheries. It does.
Listen here.
It does.
But no, that's pretty much it. But they're thanking you for telling your story. They're mostly saying what's up to all three of you. How you doing from Brinkley? Shout out from Little Rock, Brinkley, in different places, and a lot of fries.
It's a powerful story, man. Powerful story. I've been waiting on this story a long time when we first, and he knows this, when we first sat down together and came up with the Hawglife, we listed 7 people that has been on this show. Willie O.
Yeah.
All 7 has made it.
All
The 7 we wanted on the show, all 7 has made it. Miss Kristi was number 2.
Yeah.
All 7 has made the show.
Oh, that's what's up.
That is a blessing, man.
Yes,
all
sir.
7 that we reached out for the first year has made our show.
Yeah.
Wow.
awesome.
Wow.
Well, congratulations.
Wow. Wow. Let's keep the show rolling and everything, man. Willie O.
Yes, sir.
I know you want to discuss the baby girls, Kylie and Michaela. Let's talk.
Man. Yeah, man. And I'm just assuming I haven't had a chance to meet them yet, but I'm assuming they just as beautiful in spirit as their mother. And I
I
wanted
think
to.
they're awesome.
They have to be. But I wanted to ask you. I know you know how it's been for you,
Mm-hmm.
but how has it been for
Mm-hmm.
your daughters?
Mm-hmm.
And going from a full family,
Mm-hmm.
father's no longer with us,
Mm-hmm.
trying to bounce back from that, now we lose big brother.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was kind of tough
Really
for those
tough.
girls, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so explain to us a little bit of how they handled it and were able to move on.
Yeah.
Move on,
Very, very differently. The kids grieve differently than we do,
Yes, yes.
and depending on the age and then the experiences, it comes out in different ways. My older daughter was a little more comfortable with anger for a while. I got her a punching bag. She wanted a punching bag. I was like, okay, if that helps, whatever works. My youngest daughter, you know, and you've got to keep in mind how young she was, 11 and 13, you know, at these times of death. She had a really hard time talking about it. So she at first wanted us to really focus on the happy times. Can we just talk? You know, she had a hard time processing. But I also knew as their mom that it was really important that it was going to come out, you know, because with grief, you're either going to talk through it and work, you know, on how it's affecting you, because there are effects no matter what kind of death or trauma has happened. And I knew we either were going to work through it or it was going to come out in other ways. And I wanted them to be able to come out in real ways. And so the girls and I have done a lot of healing together. We have these family meetings sometimes. In fact, my youngest just called one before they went to Asia. So where we have an open forum, where we can talk about whatever they want to. And it affects them differently. You know, my oldest daughter, Kylie, told me that for a long time, she had a hard time planning for the future because she thought she was going to be next. She thought she would be the next person in our family to die.
Wow.
So she had to really work through that, you know. And she just graduated from college and she's doing awesome. And she's become much more open and expressive in her grief now. My youngest daughter for a long time dealt with a lot of fear. She didn't want to learn how to drive because driving was scary. That's how her brother died, you know. She didn't want anything to change because we've already had really hard changes, so that's enough, you know. And so you have to work through those things. And then, you know, there's extra pressure on kids in their grief. And I was concerned that the girls wouldn't feel an ability to be open in their pain and grief. And one of the worst stories I heard was this kid who got killed in Columbine. His dad wrote a book, and I read the book of his dad and what he wrote about his son getting shot and killed there. And he had a section where he talked about his daughter, his son's younger sister. And she was, of course, having to go back to that school at Columbine where her brother was shot. And you can imagine the grief that she had and the fears and the feelings, you know, that she had having to go back into this environment. And the kids were so harsh with her because there was such a pressure that just get over it now, quit being a victim, you know. And this is her brother. She's not being a victim. She misses her brother. Her brother was shot and killed there. She was under so much pressure that the parents had to change schools for her. And when I read that, my heart just was so upset, and I went to the girls immediately. Do you feel this pressure? You know, are people around you pushing you to get over it? Are they pushing, you know, because I wanted to give them that reassurance as their mom. They don't have to. Grief isn't something you get over. Grief is love for somebody who now is not there anymore. And they need to know it's okay to keep loving that person and keep expressing it and keep talking about it.
Right.
But as you watch them now, they're doing great.
I can really relate in the stages of grief in my life.
Mm-hmm.
First time death hit me when I was in the 9th grade. We talked about it when Dr. Mack was on our show, and a classmate to get killed. Death scared me at that point. Because my mindset was a classmate of mine, same age as me, born the same year as I was born, could get killed and die. I could too. When you fast forward another 3 to 4 years, I lost my great uncle. Then my mindset now, I'm 17 now. I went and viewed his body. At 40, that's the only image I have in my mind. What he looked like laying there. I had to look at pictures to remember what it was as he was living. You keep going a little bit, I lose my Aunt Carolyn. The way that happened, my Aunt Carolyn was dead. I was in Jonesboro. And people were Brinkley was in Jonesboro, Christmas shopping, telling me Rob's gonna be okay. And I'm wondering what they telling me this for. My mom and them didn't want me to know my Aunt Carolyn had passed away because during the time my Aunt Carolyn passed away, prior to her Thanksgiving, I wasn't looking for her. She was with her friends, and I didn't see her. I had to go back to work, get back to school. I see you. Then I talked to her the night she passed on the phone. So in my mind, they don't know what they're talking about. This can't be real. The denial process came in. Now I'm 21. I'm going through this. 2 months after lose my Aunt Georgia May. Now death is real. Okay? You see the process we're going through in life. Now with faith, with growth, with maturity, and not having people saying, Rob, it's not okay to cry. It's okay to cry.
That's right.
You can cry. That's
not
perfectly
weakness.
normal. That's right.
It's not weakness.
You're not weak if you cry.
That's right.
Did you see the stages doing that more?
Well, we definitely went through stages. My sister's a psychologist, so she'll laugh at this, but I don't call it denial. I call it shock, the first stage, because you're in
Shock,
agreement.
denial, anger, bargaining, depression,
Yeah, well,
testing, acceptance.
yeah,
Stages,
so
seven stages.
I always felt like
There you
with denial that I was very much aware of what happened. Anybody could ask me what happened to your husband, I would tell them. What happened to your son, I would tell them. I didn't feel like I was denying it.
Right.
To me, the better descriptor was more shock. So, but definitely we've gone through those different stages. And the stages, they were actually written for people who were dying with terminal cancer. And that makes more sense to me, because like the bargaining stage, and like I've never been in a bargain. What would you bargain? Both my guys were gone. What would you bargain for? But you could see where if somebody's terminally ill, where you'd be bargaining. Please God, let me live 2 more years or whatever you're asking for. But we've gone through a lot of different things. But the thing with grief is it doesn't just go away. It's like my daughters. I see it in their eyes when they're at a wedding and they're watching somebody's dad walk the bride down the aisle. And they know their dad's not going to be there. Or they're watching the father-daughter dance. It breaks their heart. There's just, and there's so many things. As Kylie this year, she was at her university, was on the track team and was breaking some of the school records and just doing awesome. And she called me and she was like, Mom, I just wish Dad and my brother were here.
Yeah.
And so, but what I want the girls and other people to know is that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't, our culture pushes for everything to move so fast. And we want everything fast. We want drive-through food, drive-through banking. We want faster internet anytime we can. We want the cell phones to step up and be faster. We want everything fast. And unfortunately, a lot of times people try to apply that to grief and pain. Okay, well, you had the visitation funeral, now let's go. You better now? No, we're missing people in our lives that we want to be there. And so our culture gets that mixed up, I think. And I always get a little upset when they have a tragedy on the TV. Wasn't it called Sandy Hook, the school in Connecticut, where they had the shooting of those little kids? I'll never forget watching that, thinking of the parents. Here they just send their kids to school, and all these little kids are gone that day, shot and killed. And the newscasters on there saying, well, we need to help them move on. Well, everything in me rejects that, because it is not a time to help them to move on. It is a time for comfort.
Right.
Is it a time for people to be able to express their pain and talk through it and not feel pressured to move on?
Right.
They don't have to move on. You have to learn to heal and get to a place of peace and bring them with you.
That's right. Go ahead, Dave.
So beyond that, what would you say to other parents who have experienced similar losses in their lives?
I always heard before my son was killed that losing a child's the worst thing you can go through. I remember hearing it. I remember a guy that I knew, his son was killed, and I remember trying to picture that as a parent. My mind couldn't even go there. I just had to not even think about it. You can't even think about your kids dying. And then when it happened, I remember hearing from this one friend of mine, his daughter had been killed in a car accident. He said, Kristi, it's like your heart's ripped out. And he said, people are going to tell you, well, God's grace is sufficient. He won't give you more than you can handle. And he said, my answer to that is I've been severely overestimated. And I really held on to that because I thought, okay, thank you. Because when people are saying those things, a lot of people say cliche sayings to you that they've heard and they mean well in their intentions, but it's really not helpful. And so one book that I had read, this guy said, the best thing you can say to somebody who's in pain, whether it's from a death or whatever trauma is going on, is to acknowledge their pain. Acknowledge it. Don't ignore it. A lot of times people want to ignore it because they don't know what to say. They're worried about the words. The words are not what's important. It's acknowledging, I'm sorry this has happened. I'm sorry you're going through this. You know, however you want to say it. And then let them know that you're there. And then be there. You know, not just during the funeral and the visitation, but this is part of their life now. Be there in the ways they need you. And everybody's different. But to the parents who've gone through this, you know, I know there's no words to fix your pain or your grief, but what I would ask you to do is give yourself permission to be real, to not worry about how other people are handling it, and to find ways that you can continue on their legacy, to honor your kids and kind of bring them with you as much as possible. That's what I'm trying to do with my son. I'm trying to bring him with me and honor him and try to help others. So, but for the parents that are going through it, you know, it's awful. And there's a lot of time pressure to move on. Yes. And you don't move on. All you have to think, if you're a parent and you have kids, think about how much you talk about your kids. How often do you talk about them? Well, when a child dies, all of a sudden people are scared to bring up their name anymore because they think they're going to upset you. And another great quote that I heard was, when you bring up my child's name who's died, you don't remind me that they've died. I'll never forget. What you've reminded me is that you remember they lived, and that's a gift.
And that's a good way. That's key. That's key.
Well, it's important because people are worried they're going to upset you. But what's hard is if all of a sudden you can't talk about your kid anymore. Because nothing changes for you. For me, it's been 6 years. I don't love my son less, miss him less. It's all the same.
It's all the same.
You just have to learn to live with the pain.
What's PK's birthday?
June 4th.
June 4th.
He would have been 24.
24 years old, and then he lost his life on June 17th.
26.
26. June 26th. Right. Well, his birthday come each year, and then the day that he went home to glory. What are some things you do each year, each week, each month, every day to keep his legacy, not only PK's legacy, but Philander's legacy too, because PK was part of you and Philander. What are you doing adamantly each day to keep that legacy alive? What do you do?
Well, one of the things that came out of my son's death was the motto, no excuses, no regrets.
Yes.
And that came from two of PK's uncles. My husband, two of his brothers, I told you he had 7, and 2 of them both were football players. And Willie Davis was played for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Titans and the Oilers, and he now recruits for the Chiefs. And then
we'll forgive him for that, because I'm a Raider fan. We'll forgive you, Willie, for being Kansas City. We'll forgive you.
Well, he still is. He's recruiting for me.
I know.
And then his other brother Tyree, he was with Tampa Bay Buccaneers some, and he played up in the Canadian League in Spain. And they actually had PK in Houston for the week before he died, and they were working him out and getting him ready for these college camps and stuff that he was going to. And when they came to the visitation, they talked about no excuses, no regrets, and they thought that's how PK was living, and so that's how we came up with that motto. And so one of the things the girls and I try to do when you're talking about every day is we're trying to challenge ourselves to how we can live that way. You know, how can we live without excuses? You know, sometimes it's in the form of maybe there's something you're planning to do with your family and not waiting, you know, doing it, enjoying the moment, you know. I'm definitely a believer in living in gratitude. I want to live in gratitude even in the pain. And so I think that finding ways to be grateful for the different things that come about each day are important. We're very active in a scholarship fund that was started. That started by people in our community. And so we give out 3 $1,000 scholarships every year. So far we've given out $18,000 in scholarships in honor of Kansas student athletes. And that's something that is encouraging. Personally, I try to reach out to people who are in grief or pain and try to be there for them. Because when you go through things like this, you understand more about just being there. Just letting them be real, letting them ask questions. A lot of times people are scared to ask questions. They're scared to, well, I don't know if I should let people know that I'm wondering why did this happen. You know, well, anybody who goes through trauma usually wonders why did it happen. I think that's very normal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes people in faith are concerned about saying that, but I don't think God condemns us for not understanding. I don't think He wonders why our hearts cry out, why did this happen? I mean, how could you not
Right.
wonder? And there's trauma and tragedy all over the world, so there's lots of things that people are hurting, things that happen. And so it's important that people have people like that they can be real with and authentic and talk to them.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Willie-O, what you got, baby?
So you bouncing all around the blog. So let's talk about some of your blogs. And how did all this even come about?
The blog started because I've started writing a book. And so I actually started the heart of it after the first year that PK died. I spent that whole time leading up to that week, writing. And I was writing what happened over and over and over again about, just working through what had happened. Then, as that grew, and I started studying about proposals and how to get a book going and an agent and different things like that, it talked about a blog.
Okay.
And it said that a blog was important if you want to publish a book. So I kind of put the book aside, which was good for me anyway, because I didn't know how to end the book. And so I was kind of stuck anyways. And then I started blogging. And now I've come to love blogging because I just write about whatever's happening.
Is it a release for you?
Absolutely. Writing is very therapeutic for me.
Yes.
And very much a release. Mm-hmm.
So the book. I want to hit this book. What's the name of this book going to be?
I don't know. It might end up being No Excuses, No Regrets.
Oh,
I don't know
and
yet.
that's what I was going to say. That would be the perfect
Is that
title.
what you named it?
That would be that was exactly what I was thinking. That would be the perfect title of that book because you say PK lived that way. We see it in you.
Yeah.
You are an epitome of no regret, no excuses, no nothing. Life has a way of throwing the meanest curveballs at you. You have to have faith to even get up to the plate. You got to have faith. I was listening to somebody one day, and it hit me when I was thinking about it. Things God puts you through is the things He uses your faith to conquer. If we knew everything that was going to happen to us, we wouldn't even need faith for anything. We wouldn't need it. When you have nothing else to use but your faith, that in itself puts you at a category level, where you almost at the point where, and I'm not saying you can't be touched, but you can overcome anything.
You learn. When you're in the heart of the tragedy, I talk about the night that my son had died. And I remember going in my room, and I call it the faith battle in my life, because I remember me and God and me saying, I don't understand. Now, if I wasn't a woman who believed in a God of miracles, it wouldn't have mattered. But I believed that God could have protected my son. And so I'd say that I had some faith crisis in there. And I've had to do faith rebuilding and trust rebuilding, through the years. A book I read recently by Laura Story, she said that I can either, a lot of times she's talking about how we let our circumstances determine how we see God. She said, but we should let God, who He is, help us view our circumstances.
That's right. Man, you have really, oh man, I'm in awe. I knew when God put this on our hearts to have a podcast, you was the first person that came right there in my mind. I have been honored to even sit next to you. And I'm not deserving of a lot of things in this world, no way, shape, form, or fashion. But to be able to sit next to a conqueror, a true outstanding warrior, it's like Willie said, I took my hat to you. My dearest friend, you believed in me when nobody else did.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate you. I really appreciate whether it was, Rob, you okay? Or Rob, how's your health? Rob, how's your blood pressure? You believed in me in more ways than I can ever thank or repay you. But I think we're going to do something sweet for you so you'll never forget me. Or Willie-O. Or the whole Hawglife crew. Can't forget him. Can't forget us.
No, because she believed in me at a time when nobody else
No,
did.
please, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to tell you I love you.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's mine.
Please. This time on the show, Willie-O, other than me a headache, He gives his pearls of wisdom.
Oh,
And
man.
when he gets finished giving that, we got something we all gonna give you, okay? The 216 philosophy. What are your the genius? What you got there?
Yes, sir. This week's 216 philosophy is this. Tomorrow's gone. Treasure today. Pray for a better tomorrow. Give people their flowers while they can smell them. Tell them good stories while they're to be told. While they can be here to accept them. Don't nobody else love you. Remember that I love you. And the Hawglife loves you.
That's right. That's right. And remember, there's nothing you can do about that. We love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about that.
Nothing you can do about it, Jack.
I was sitting there talking to Willie on the phone, and we got you some T-shirts we're gonna order you and Kylie and Michaela. Got y'all some shirts coming. Shout out to Miss Latina Shear for being so patient with me and just working with me. Thank you so much, sweetheart, for everything that you do for us. But your new friend, little Rochelle Marie Harden, when you met last night.
Yes, met his sister online.
Oh wow! Rochelle last night. She has no
Rob
idea
was
who
mocking me,
she.
but I mocked
She has no idea who she. But Shell Marie pulls some strings for the Hawglife. Now we got something for you that you would never forget us. When you type in your blog, we want you to wrap yourself around with this blanket. And you got Willie.
Oh, Hawglife blanket.
Yeah, you got Big Rob right there. We rape you. Now, when you type in your blog,
Okay.
you remember us.
You guys will be with me.
That's right.
We'll be with
So
you.
I can laugh and cry.
There you go. There you go.
You wrapped up in the
Wrapped up in the Hawglife.
Well, thank you very
Well,
much. Thank
Kristi,
you.
we love you. We love the ground you walk on. We continue praying, God. Your strength is amazing. It is amazing. Your story is amazing. Thank you for coming to the Hog Pen and sharing your story with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you for letting me.
You could have been anywhere in the world. We're so thankful you came here with us. And thankful to everybody out there that's supporting us and everything and the many things we do. Yes, we'll come with for T-shirts for sale for you guys too. We're going to bless you guys and take care of you guys too. And let y'all rock the Hawglife gear. We've been rolling. And last week we had to take us a break.
Also, we want to let them know that portions of today's show was brought apart by Kip's Crusade.
Kip's Crusaders. Kip lost his father this past week. And we want to give some mad love to Robin and Kip Jackson.
Yes.
We praying for you guys. We love you guys, man. Everything we do. This show has been brought to you by Kip Crusaders. And
Keep fighting like
keep
hell.
fighting like hell. Fighting like hell. We will come up with a ALS cure.
Yeah.
But until then, you keep fighting like hell. We're going to fight with you. We're going to fight with you. Willie O,
Yes, sir.
any last words?
Yeah. Shout out Will West Studios.
Will West Studio.
J Rock and Will West himself.
Oh, it's so good for you.
They make you look like $1 million when you know you look like a mud duck.
Not a mud duck.
Yeah, man.
And then he don't want to get on camera.
Put them on, put them on.
Zoom it in.
If you guys look at our theme music and theme video, there's a shot of Will West doing his model walk.
Yeah.
I had to find one good shot. I was just like, oh my god,
Let's see.
That should be featured.
You have something, regardless of whether you feel you're attractive or not, it makes you attractive. I'm gonna tell you what it is. You have a dimple. For some odd reason, women find dimples so attractive. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
We need to capture this regret and this shame. I'm sorry.
I think you should capture the dimple.
Start with the dimple. What's on the other side? There you go, girl. Show the
Turn your
dimple,
head a
man.
little
Show
bit.
it.
You know you're still working, right?
Yeah, no dimple, man.
This side, the dimple's on this side, not this side.
Turn.
So you know what side is on there, don't you? Will?
I remember when I created it.
Oh, wow. Look at
It's
you.
a funny story. Now, mom says that it's always been there, but I didn't notice it until I was like 14, 15. The way mom tells the story, she says a hole came out of the ground and hit me upside the head.
Okay, rock around.
That's how she tells it.
Hit you in the head.
Now, I'm looking at Uncle, he's really like, wait, well,
Yeah.
okay.
We're all
I was
under
playing
control.
7th, 8th grade playing dodgeball, okay? And I was the last one, dodgeball favorite game, because I always win all the time. And there was this, like a water, I guess some sort of water meter, some sort of meter that just stuck out the ground and it's just there, right? Well, when I coincidentally was dodging a ball, I hit my face on that side of the pole right there that was sticking out the ground, and it hit me really good because I couldn't smile for about a week.
Man.
And it busted it up pretty good. So when it started to heal up, I noticed that my smile was a little bit different. And I was like, huh. And she said, oh, William, your dimple's back. I said, what dimple? I said, as far as I'm concerned, that thing got deeper.
Oh, man. Y'all, this has been a fun show. We're going to get on out of here. We got a lot of things to do. Man, for my main man, the infamous, the OG, Willie O, the genius. Always glad to ride with you, brother.
Already, man. Sitting beside the Shaka one himself, Big Rob the Shaka.
Say it, man. Say it.
Hey, man, I can say it with my chest, the Shaka.
The Shaka. That's right, man. Shaka.
And the one and only, Kristi Kirk.
Kristi and Kirk. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Shout out to baby sis hog, Shannon Mokala.
That's right. I want my shades back, baby.
Yeah, you took your shades and everything. And the rough rider, J. Rob the Bully.
Yeah, man.
And the Gooch. Can't forget the Gooch himself. The Gooch.
The Angry Panda.
Angry Panda. The Angry Hog. Marcus Tucky Tuck Tucker. Who's the one that did your flyer for you? That's the one that did the flyer. He is a talent. We got a lot of talented people around us.
Got a lot of talented people.
A lot of talented people around us, man. You know.
We the least talented ones on our roster, man.
I mean, the least talented.
All this work they go on to make us look good.
Make us look good, you know. But we look like chocolate, so I mean.
I've been chocolate.
Ham and
I've been
cheese.
ham and cheese. With extra melted cheese.
Like a nice ham and cheese sandwich.
Crunchy edges on the toast.
Let's get up out of here, man. I am the Shocker one, Big Rob the Shocker. He is
Willie O, the genius.
This is
Kristi Kirk.
all right, and it is the Hawglife, baby. We are out there. That was a great show.
Hey, Facebook Live, guess what?
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
It's your girl, Mia Banks, and I want you to check out the most dangerous podcast in the A-State with Willie O, the genius, and my homie, the shocking one, Big Rob the Shocker. You know what it is, the Hawglife, baby.